class today. Today we're going to be looking at Matthew 8, 5 through 13. Okay? And just a little heads up. When you go to Matthew 8, usually we encourage you to look a little before the scripture and look a little after the scripture. And if you did that, you saw that this block of scripture contains 3 stories, all about healing. There was the story of the lepers in the beginning of chapter 8. Then we have the story of the centurion servant, which we will look at further today. And then you have the story of Peter's mother-in-law. And those 3 have something in common that we'll touch on a little later. Okay? All right. The other thing that you may want to know in regards to this scripture is that we've spoken often about harmonizing the Gospels. Remember that? This story can also be found in Luke 7, verses 1 through 10. Okay? So this is for you later on. Please go back and take a look at this and you'll find out some more about this story, a little deeper understanding about this story. Okay. Let's start with our scripture, Matthew 8, 5 through 6. And it says, "And when Jesus was entering into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion, beseeching him, and saying, Lord, my servant lieth at home, sick of the palsy, grievously tormented." Let's stop there for a minute. What's a centurion?
Soldier.
Roman
soldier.
Roman soldier. So we got the centurion.
And he was an officer. He was more than just a soldier. He was like an officer.
Roman soldier.
Generally had at least 100 men.
Officer. 100 men. I looked at it, said 80 to 100, something like that. Men. Now, I don't know much. There's one other thing that this centurion soldier would have been. It's kind of important to us.
As far as his nationality or
What about it?
A Gentile.
There we go. That's the word I was looking for. He was a Gentile. Okay, that's a big thing for us in this lesson. Okay, now the centurion. I don't know much about military ranks, but think about those of you who were active duty. Think about what position would have been in charge of about 80 to 100 men. Okay, I want you to get that picture in your mind of this centurion. So he's, I don't know, major, colonel, I don't know, but he's a high-ranking. He wasn't just a Roman soldier, he was a high-ranking soldier. And those of you who are in the military, you know those high-ranking soldiers, you know, they come, they have a little air to them, right? Okay. All right, so this centurion came, and he would have had a little air about him. He was an officer. He was a high rank. And he came beseeching. Who knows what beseeching is? If I can spell it right, that would help.
Pleading, begging, maybe.
That's the word. Begging. Okay? So think of this high-ranking officer coming to who is a Gentile, coming to a Jew, begging. Now, what do we know about Gentiles and Jews?
They did not get along together.
They don't get along together. Okay? Exactly. So think about that. Think about that.
It's called oil water.
Exactly. This Gentile oil came begging this Jew water. You would think, oh yeah, that's not going to have a good outcome. Right? Because they're so different. Right? They didn't hang out together. All right? But the other thing, look at verse 6. "And saying, Lord, my servant lieth at home, sick of the palsy, grievously tormented." He did not come begging for himself. He was desperate, strongly urging, begging Jesus for healing for his servant, not for himself. Now, when we think about the woman with the issue of blood, we can kind of get with her. I mean, she was where she shouldn't have been, but she was desperate for herself, for healing for herself. But this person came begging for someone else. Then that kind of, it put me in mind of thinking about Jesus. Jesus must have been desperate like that when he saw our sin-sick world.
Yes.
And he said, Lord, give me a body. Let me go heal.
All right.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay? So when I studied that, I thought, Jesus must have felt that same desperation for us
Yes, yes.
because of the situation we were in. But he came begging Jesus for his servant who had palsy. For those of you who don't know, palsy would have been some kind of paralyzing on one side. Every picture I saw when I looked up, you've seen people with a side of their face kind of droops down, okay, and they kind of can't move their arm. That would be palsy, okay? And so there's also a lot of pain with that. So this person, his servant, would have been paralyzed in some way and in a lot of pain, okay? So you get that picture in your mind of who this centurion was and why he was coming to Jesus, okay? And what did Jesus do? Let's go to verse 7. What did Jesus do? He said, and Jesus said unto him, I will come and heal. There wasn't no discussion. He just immediately said, I will come. Well, again, we got a Gentile and a Jew.
Yes.
So they don't deal well together. So the fact that Jesus just automatically popped up and said, I will go to your house. I will follow you to your house to heal this man. Right? All right. Think about this. In the beginning, I told you that there were 3 stories. Okay? Each of these stories had to deal with a leper. Okay? So we had the leper. We had the Gentile, and then the third story was Peter's mother-in-law, who would have been a woman.
Okay.
Think about these 3 people in the Jewish culture. What about those 2 people? Those 3 people? Outcasts.
Yes.
These were all people that Jews would have held in low esteem.
They would have been considered the least, the last, and
The
the
least, the last, and the lowest. Exactly. These were not people that the Jews would have been, hanging out with. Yeah. And yet Jesus immediately said,
I'll go.
I'll go. And what is that? Why? Why?
He came for us.
He came for all of us. The whole world. Even the least, the lost, and the lowly.
Yes.
Okay? So all of us, not just for the Jews as they thought. Okay? So not just for the chosen people, but he came for everyone. And that's why these stories would have been put there. So because he did lots of miracles, he healed lots of people. But they put these particular stories there so that we would know that Jesus came for all of us. Not just the Jews.
Yes.
Okay? Okay. How did the centurion respond? Let's look at verse 8. How did he respond when Jesus said, okay, I'll go to your house?
He said he wasn't worthy.
He wasn't worthy. Why not?
I thought it was a great act of compassion on his part, that he was also looking out for Jesus' interests,
Thank you.
as far as saying that, I know you're a Jew, I don't want to get you in trouble with your
Right,
folks.
exactly.
So don't come over my house.
Because Jesus was always in trouble a lot anyway. People hung out with, right? But the centurion,
He also had faith because he said, just say the word and you shall be healed.
Oh, yes.
So he had a big faith in Jesus.
we're coming.
Yeah.
So we're coming to. So he said, don't come to my house because he didn't want to get Jesus in trouble with,
But I know
with everybody else who's hanging around. But the second part of that, the B clause of that, it says, but speak the word only and my servant shall be healed. How did he know? How did he know?
Yep.
How did this centurion, this Gentile, who would not have been raised in the synagogues with the prophecies or the Torah or any of the scriptures, how did this Gentile know that Jesus just needed to speak the word and his servant would be healed?
Go ahead.
He had faith, but how did he get that faith?
He had heard of Jesus' reputation.
He heard Jesus' reputation. So again, that kind of behooves all of us to be talking about Jesus.
They're coming right here.
Exactly. So we need to be talking about Jesus in our conversations. Okay? Not about each other.
Amen.
Talking about Jesus. Okay? So that he can draw.
Yes.
Okay? So just the stories that the centurion had heard about Jesus. But there's two parts. He heard it, but there's something else regarding that Mr. Melvin touched on just a moment ago.
He believed.
He believed it. We hear lots of stuff.
Okay.
Don't we? On the
Okay.
TV, God knows we hear lots of stuff on TV, right?
Okay.
Do we
Awesome.
believe everything we hear?
Heard
Okay.
and believed.
Centurion heard it and believed it. And because of his belief, that's why he was able to turn to Jesus and say, if you just speak it. Okay? As a side note, as I was studying this, I saw something from an instructor who talked about the word. Do you remember that in the book of Genesis, before Adam, how was everything created?
God spoke it.
God spoke it. God said, and let there be. Let there be. Let there be. So it was his word
Yes.
that had power.
Speak
It was the power of his word that created the world.
Yes.
He did not use his hands to physically create anything until he created Adam.
That's right.
Everything else, and Adam was the last thing. So everything else was created with his word. With his word.
Awesome.
And who's Jesus?
The word.
The word.
The word.
The word. Okay?
All right.
All right. So we've got the centurion, this big, high-ranking soldier. He's coming to this Jew. He's begging him on behalf of his servant for healing. Jesus says, okay, I'll go. Centurion said, no, you don't have to come to my house. Just speak the word. But then the centurion turns around and said something, did something which some people might say, oh, he was bragging about who he was. Is that what was happening?
No.
By him saying, you know, I'm a man under authority, having soldiers under me, and I say to this man, go, and he goeth, and to another come, and he cometh, and to my servant do this, and he do it. Was he saying, I'm a big shot?
No.
You should take care of this for me because of who I am. Is that what he was saying?
No.
No, I think he was being
No.
more humble, saying, you know, look at who I am and look at who he is, and you know.
Yeah, respecting who he was respecting Jesus' authority.
And he was sure that he has authority. He recognizes authority.
Right.
And he recognized the spiritual authority
Yes.
that Jesus has.
So his
Yes.
lordship.
Awesome.
So Jesus is lordship.
Okay? He recognizes Jesus' lordship. He wasn't bragging about who he was. He wasn't trying to get Jesus, convince Jesus to do what he wanted because of his position. He was letting Jesus know that I am someone who is familiar with authority and I recognize
You got it.
your authority.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, you got it. Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay? So what happened with Jesus? Verse 10, I think, was the most wonderful
Yes.
that I had. When Jesus heard it, he marveled and said to them that followed, verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel.
Wow.
Now, it says in the scripture that Jesus marveled twice.
Yes.
And it struck me as interesting that he marveled twice because this time he marveled because of the centurion's faith. The other time in Mark 6, he marveled at the lack of faith, the unbelief
Yes.
of his own people.
Yes.
Twice.
Right.
Completely
Wow.
opposite thing.
Wow.
Completely opposite. So he marveled at this centurion, this Gentile's faith. So then what do you say? So the second part of B should be kind of a slap in the face for Israel.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, I haven't seen anybody with as much faith as this Gentile centurion here.
Wow.
And you're supposed to know the scriptures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're my chosen
Yeah.
people. You're the ones that's supposed to be welcoming me. And you're the ones who don't believe
Yes.
Wow.
in me. So the religious leaders should have been kind of taken aback by that. Yes?
Yes.
They should have kind of said, oh, whoa. Take a look at ourselves. Okay? And then he says, and I say unto you that many shall come from the east and west and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. He was talking about Gentiles.
Mm-hmm.
Gentiles are going to be coming from the east and the west and sitting down with the fathers. Okay? But The children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness, where there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So basically he said, now some of you who think you're going to be there, you're not going to be there. Some of you chosen people are not going to be there. There's going to be a great weeping and gnashing of teeth because you thought
Yes.
you were it, but you weren't. Okay? And so at the end, what does Jesus say? And Jesus said unto the centurion, go thy way, and as thou hast believed, so be it done unto thee. And his servant was healed in the self-same hour. Notice that Jesus didn't say because of your faith.
Wow.
That scripture doesn't say because of your faith. Even though it was obvious that he had great faith.
Right.
He did not say because of your faith.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly.
Wow.
Amen.
Thank you so much.